Youth unemployment surges. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I'm still hoity-toiting it up with my cappuccino of coffee today, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from the ABC because it discusses concerns or predictions that youth unemployment is going to surge. Now, I remember I had a roommate who was a few years older than me. You know, he's probably one of those bitter and twisted Gen Xers. But he came out of high school just when we had the recession Australia we had to have. So it was a little bit, tougher finding work. And he said it was a harder environment for anyone to get a job. I'd say in some ways that shaped that generation. And we're probably going to start seeing that happen again. Remember, everyone, there's a whole generation here in Australia that has no living memory of what a recession is or what tough times are. Just think about that. Think about that. And, yeah. So history suggests youth unemployment will surge. Pain will last a decade after the illness crisis. And this is a problem because this is going to be the time when the younger generation are probably most productive, where they're good earning years. It's about to hit. A lot of the millennials now are going to hit their best earning years, and they're not going to have capacity to earn much. That's going to cause problems later on. They're probably go first generation to be worth less than the previous one. So if we jump here, we can have a look at the unemployment figures. I mean, it was, what was it? It was 5.2% in March. And that's just because the survey data was in the first half of March. It's going to be much worse than this. So it beat all forecasts. It was better than all the forecasts. But let's wait and see what the April data is. And that just shows you there's issues with this methodology that the ABS does. Because we saw all the queues in front of the Centrelink. We've seen months of businesses letting people go. Sure, JobKeeper is going to hide the reality of the situation. But, yeah, let's wait and see. Do you think unemployment's only gone up a tiny bit, guys? Let me know what you reckon in the comments, because I think it's BS. And that perfectly demonstrates the issue I have with a lot of all the economic decisions and assumptions that our great glorious leaders make. They're not doing it on real-time data. They're not doing it on real-time data. It's not like they can have a dashboard that instantly has all the data available for them, or you'd hope they would have, but they're not. So they're interfering in the market and the economy based on outdated data and lagging indicators. Perfect. So Danielle Payne's career is only in its first act, and now it's paused indefinitely as the illness pandemic halts production in the film industry. I mean, there you go. There's an industry that will cop it. I've got a friend that he's legally blind and he has his own production company. So he's switched, because he makes short films, Peanuts Productions, look him up. And he switched to audiobooks to keep production going, which is good to see. But not everyone can pivot like that, because he's already been making them. The 25-year-old has been working as a camera assistant for 2 years and says getting established is all about momentum. The last job I had was on March 13, and every job after that got cancelled. I had probably a month's work lined up, various short films and commercials, and they were all cancelled, she said. It's all based on networking and working job to job, impressing the person above you, and hopefully getting them to put you forward for the next job. When you're not fully established in your career, it just adds to the uncertainty. So she's hustling. She's hustling to build her career, which I respect and I appreciate. I mean, it's not going to be easy. The first job is always the toughest one to get, isn't it? And this game would be pretty competitive. So younger workers overrepresented in affected industries. Well, remember that just the Spanish unemployment rate, how long that was going on. Younger workers are overrepresented in occupations that have been directly impacted by the early economic fallout of the pandemic, including hospitality, retail, the arts, sports, recreation, and childcare. Around 40% of younger workers are in retail or hospitality. That compares to around 13% of all workers. So younger Australians are really at the centre of what's going on. They're being hit hard from a number of different angles, Callum Pickering, economist at jobs site Indeed, told the business. Prior to the current downturn, Mr. Pickering said younger Australians were already doing it tough. In February, the unemployment rate for 15 to 24-year-olds was 12.2%. Bloody hell. Bloody hell. The youth underemployment rate, which is the measure of young people looking for more hours of work, rose to 18.3%. There you go. And that's the one. Underemployment is the figure we really need to be looking at. And we should be looking at the Roy Morgan methodology, not the ABS methodology. I'm going to bring them up. We'll look at that later. Because, this 5.2% increase really makes you question their approach. We'll bring this up here, 2020. Let's see if they've updated their data. Right down the bottom, March, early. Okay, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. This just shows you the difference right here between the ABS, what they're reporting, and what Roy Morgan's going. This is why I prefer the Roy Morgan data. Early, the unemployment rate was 7.3. Late, in March, 16.8%. There you go. That shows you, doesn't it? Right there. I'd hate to know what the youth unemployment is. Oh, and wait a minute. They've got bloody thing. Unemployed and looking for work. Unemployed, workforce, unemployed and looking for work. We've got PT percentage is 25.8, 11.8, 11% there. I mean, this is nuts. 16.8%. So, with Treasury forecasting the general unemployment rate to hit 10%. Okay, so this is what Treasury is saying. We just had a look at Roy Morgan at over 16.8% late March. They're predicting it'll hit 10%. So it is true. You just take the ABS figures and you double it. So that means we'll probably more likely hit 20%. Unemployment, not underemployment. And then youth are always higher. They're double that as well. History suggests that the impact of the illness will stick with younger people for much of the next decade, Mr. Pickering said. This was certainly the case in the last recession in the early 1990s and the GFC just 12 years ago. Was I young 12 years ago? Yeah, I was in my 20s. Yes, I was young. Crap. That big 4-0 is coming a bit closer. Nope, I've already talked about mascot. So, during the last recession, the youth unemployment rate peaked above 20% in 92, compared to the peak of 11.2% in the broader unemployment rate. So there you go, guys. It's double. After the GFC, it climbed again, hitting 14% in 2014 and remaining elevated today. So, I mean, the economic growth since GFC, GDP, it's been growing below trend. It's been depressed. Our economy has been growing slower per capita. This is the thing. More and more people are coming to Australia, and then they're building more houses for more and more people. More houses and more infrastructure, but the infrastructure isn't keeping up. Water isn't keeping up. Other jobs aren't keeping up. Can we really have a civilization that's just built on selling each other coffee and houses? So whatever happens over the next few months, over the next year or two, is likely that much of the burden will fall on younger Australians and persist for years to come. So the last in, first out syndrome hits graduates. Oh. Greg Weiss works as an outplacement consultant. If you're meeting with him, you've probably been made redundant or been retrenched. He had a lot of meetings over the past few weeks and says that graduate job market has been hit hard. Well, yeah, because honestly, I've employed graduates. I've employed students. And you have to spend time to train them up to get them useful. You have to, this is going to sound very politically incorrect. Sometimes you need to break people down a little bit to build them up better. You need to get rid of that sense of entitlement. You need to have a few workers in tears. Now, perhaps that's just my Prussian Germanic upbringing with regards to dedication to work that some people don't have. And I've noticed that you get hardworking and you get less hardworking people in every culture I've dealt with. And we've employed people from all over the world. Or maybe I'm just a bastard of a boss. But I'm the nice one. Rachel's the tough one. So, Any job offers that have been given to them have been withdrawn. I'm also seeing people who are in jobs at the early stages of their graduate careers, and some people who are probably at the most vulnerable stage because it's a syndrome of last in, first out, said Mr. Weiss, founder of Career 365. Mr. Weiss said some companies had let go whole cohorts of graduates who had been earmarked as future leaders within the firms. One organization, for example, they had a high potential program where they let go 30 people. Those people have not just been stood down, they've actually had their employment ceased. Well, yeah, there's some businesses that have to make these decisions. University and TAFE students in the final years of their program have had placements and internships cancelled or moved online. Hannah O'Reilly is in her third year of a speech pathology degree and is waiting to find out what will happen with her planned placement in a hospital or aged care facility. You can read as many books as you want, and you can hear about different cases and things like that, but until you have the practical component, it's really hard to have it all come together, Mr. O'Reilly said. At 30 years old, she's already classed as a mature age student, and while she's not concerned about the long-term employment prospects in speech pathology, she's worried about short-term delays. 30 is a bit late, unless... Okay, I mean, 30 is a good age to be going to uni if you've already pumped out the kids. If you've already got your life established and then you're deciding to go back and do study. That's the counterintuitive approach that, could work. But if you haven't done all those other things and you're hitting 30 and then you want to, have the career and then the family, then you're kind of in trouble. It's already a 4-year course, which is quite long compared to some others. I'm really eager to get out there in the workforce. What sort of workforce she'll graduate into is uncertain. 4 years. I'm just architecture was about 6.5, 7 years. Then postgraduate study, so 4 years. That's not long. That's not long. Architecture is too long, to be honest, for what it is. But there you go. According to the annual graduate outcomes survey, last year 72.2% of undergraduates found a full-time job within 4 months of finishing their degree. Yes. But the question is, how many of those jobs are actually related to their degree? Peter Schiff has a very depressing video where he's walking up like a strip club lane or alley somewhere in the US, asking people what their degrees were in. And there are people that are holding up the signs to get people to go in there with university degrees and tens of thousands of dollars in debt. So that's up from a low of 68.1%. Yeah, but how many of those jobs are, I guess you wouldn't count Uber a full-time job, would it? But was down from 85.2% recorded in 2008, demonstrating the length of the drag from the GFC. That's one thing I'm really happy with in the course that we did. Rachel and I studied architecture at QUT at a time when it was designed that you would have 1 day at university, all your classes were on 1 day, and then you would have 4 days where you would work in a practice. You were expected to work in a practice. So you could get a job. 4 days is enough to run a project. 4 days is enough to take on responsibility. 4 days is enough to earn a decent income. So it worked quite well. I'm sure you took a bit longer to finish your degree. Sure, you only ever dated people you met at uni because you never got out and met anyone else. But it had a lot of advantages. Of course, now that's all gone. You know why? Because it was harder for international students to find these positions. There you go. So pay cuts could send wage growth to its lowest since the GFC, or since the Great Depression. For those able to find or keep a job, the prospect of a pay rise is not looking good. In fact, it's the opposite. Mr. Weiss has seen pay cuts ranging from 20% at the high-end consulting firms to 40% for all employees at a software company. Organizations don't want to lose their good people. They want to retain them any which way they can, and having a collective approach to saying let's all reduce our remuneration is something I'm seeing across the board, he said. Mr. Pickering warns wage growth could slow to its lowest level since the Great Depression as a result of the illness downturn. Pay cuts and pay freezes are likely to become the reality for thousands, if not millions, of Australian workers across the country, he said. That could see employers take advantage of cheaper, younger workers in the years to come at the expense of the more experienced workforce. Well, I think that happens regardless. I mean, come on. For now, Miss Payne is more concerned about when her next job will come, not how much it will pay. She has joined a union campaign to extend the $1,500 fortnight JobKeeper supplement to people with mixed employment, such as those in the film industry who work both on short-term contracts and under their own ABN. In my situation, I've had 16 employees this financial year, so we were advised there was a high chance we'd fall through the cracks, she said. That turns out to be the case when the legislation passed Parliament, so she's applied for job seeker and is waiting on the outcome. But isn't she an independent contractor, so she's not... If she's got her own ABN, that's her business. I was talking... Literally, my neighbour, he's a contractor, so he's getting it through his own business. You've had 16 clients this financial year. Maybe her business isn't set up that way. That turns out to be the case. Anyway. That's been its own nightmare trying to get through, just having not been able to provide the appropriate documentation due to my unique way of being employed. Well, you're a contractor, you're not an employee. It's different. Maybe she doesn't realize that. Well, she's struggling to adjust having no work after sometimes working 60 hours a week. So she should have a lot of savings. But I was talking to a viewer yesterday. Our savings are terrible here in Australia. Will people learn from this? Will they learn? I'm hearing stories of people who only, like kids, who only work one shift a week at the KFC and are now getting this payment. You know, still living at home. I mean, I can't blame them if they can get the money. Let's just hope they do something smart with it before inflation eats it all away. So it's just one of a generation of working, hoping that her careers will resume quickly. So there we have it, guys. So we're all sitting at home watching Netflix and Stan, an amazing Australian story. I hope the government... No, well, that's your own stupid fault. If you're taking... This is an opportunity. If you see this just as sitting on your ass watching Netflix and Stan, then you're getting the wrong message. She should be honing her craft. She should be learning other skills. She should be trying to create her own content. Anything to set herself apart. But I guess that's kind of maybe where my thinking's a little different. I wouldn't run quick to join a union campaign. I'd look at where the opportunities could lie in a situation. Anyway, guys, what would you do? This is going to hit a generation of people hard. What do you think the path out is? As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Are you surprised at the difference between Roy Morgan and the ABS data? And let's see where this is going. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you're a fan and want to support us, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or on Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin for the crypto traders. You can get our merch from HeiseSays or Teesprings. Send us gold via Gold Pass or use PayPal if you want to support us that way. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you later.